You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? You're listening to The Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, Saturdays at 10 a.m., Sundays at 9 a.m. If you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be. And if you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be. I'm Kyah Ann, your host and a yoga enthusiast, and I have a lot up for you today. Yoga news, where I talk about what's going on in the world, how it relates to yoga. Yoga heals, where I bring on a very special guest and talk to them about their practice, and the weekly wellness challenge, where I have been following the 8 limbs of yoga. But before we get into all of that, let's center ourselves. No matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, let's take this moment to go inward, to focus on our breath, focus on our prana. Prana translating to breath, as in breath of life, our life energy for so many translations. So it doesn't matter if you're sitting on the plane, you're sitting on the couch, you're sitting on the floor, you're going on a walk, you're standing in the kitchen. There's a lot of options. Just take this moment to lengthen out your spine. Whether you're sitting, standing, or laying, create a nice line of energy from your tailbone to your crown so breath can effortlessly move through you. If you're sitting or standing, plant your feet on the ground, root your feet down, and extend your crown up high. Create distance between your shoulders and your ears. Maybe close your eyes or soften your gaze, and begin with pushing out all your breath so we can begin a new breath cycle together. And then inhale through your nose all the way up to your collarbone and hold at the top. And exhale, let out a nice sigh, like pushing out all the breath. Inhale through your nose, into your belly, past your rib cage, filling up your lungs and holding. And exhale in the opposite direction, leaving your belly last, pushing out all the breath, letting out that sigh. Inhale through your nose, fill your belly up like a balloon, and hold. And exhale, letting out that sigh, pushing out all the breath, expelling what you do not need. Let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. I am centered. Let's get on with the show. Yoga news. Is this a sign that McDonald's stock has peaked? So I'm not a economics girly, so I can't get too deep into this, but essentially McDonald's growth rate is going down. They're still growing in sales, but not as much as usual, and it's going down right now, and people are worried that it will continue to go down, especially the people that own stocks and all that fancy complex stuff. McDonald's has been raising its prices, charging more, of course, because inflation, and to make more. But people might be pushing back against that. I'm not about to pay all this money for a McDonald's meal. People generally associate McDonald's and other fast food with being cheap, and they're like, if it's expensive, why would I eat it? Why would I go there? It's supposed to be cheap and convenient fast food. But why is this my yoga news? Well, because I'm anti-McDonald's. I'm just saying that now, and hopefully I'm not shooting myself in the foot and closing opportunities. Maybe this show could be some really big one day. So by saying I'm anti-McDonald's could be terrible. It could be I could step on the wrong feet, whatever. But I'm just gonna say it. I don't care. I'm anti-McDonald's, and that's just because I'm such a health oriented, wellness oriented person, and McDonald's and health and wellness just don't go together. They just don't. I wanted to discuss a few reasons why McDonald's sales might be going down, or at least McDonald's growth. And I think it's a sign of the times. I feel as if collectively we are ascending. People are, in air quotes, waking up. People are more concerned about their health, their fitness, their wellness. People understand, like, okay, I need to get healthy. I need to be healthy. I need to stay healthy. Like, my health is my wealth. I think more and more people are conscious about that. And that's one aspect of it. But some of those people still might indulge in fast food or McDonald's or whatever. But I think it's happening just a little less, like degree by degree. I don't have the data to back it up, but I'm just saying personally in my life, in just considering the changes I've gone through, wellness trends are on the rise. The wellness industry is making more money. Like, it just makes sense. You know, I'm not saying that this is it, but I think that this is one component of it. Also, McDonald's main customers, their reoccurring customers, are sick or they're no longer with us, because you can't really sustain a life where McDonald's is a regular thing. Like, that's just not going to happen for long. You're not going to get away with that. So there will be less McDonald's customers as people continue to eat McDonald's. Like, if that's part of your daily thing or your weekly thing or whatever, that it's like you'll either have to stop doing it eventually, or, you know, people might get sick if they continue to eat fast food and things like McDonald's at the rate that they are or were. So I just feel like it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, yeah, their customers can't sustain their business, because our life does have a limit on it, and we can do things to limit our life even more. And McDonald's is one of those things. We can eat more McDonald's, and I'm sure that will limit our life. And then also, considering the time period and all the controversy going on between Israel and Palestine, there's a lot of people boycotting McDonald's and other companies because of the conflict. And I'm honestly curious about their sales and, like, if that is really impacting their sales. And, you know, I don't know. If it is, then so what? You know, I'm anti-McDonald's, so I'm like, oh, McDonald's growth is going down, good. You know, I'm anti-fast food in general. Like, that's just something where I'm like, nope. You know, absolutely. I've taken a strong stance, and hopefully I don't change on the stance of being anti-fast food, but particularly anti-McDonald's because it's such a pinnacle part of the culture that I'm like, yeah, we just need to kill this part of the culture. Like, this is, you know, when I think of fast food, McDonald's is like the first one to come in mind. Like, they've literally permeated our culture so hard. Like, there's so many McDonald's references all up and throughout our culture. Like, it's sick. Like, yeah, it's pretty bad. And it's more than other fast food places. I feel like McDonald's is kind of like the king of fast food places in the world. It's just so big. And maybe there are other fast food restaurants with more sales or this or whatever, but I'd say this one probably has the most impact and influence on the culture. And that's part of why they get to thrive, or why they have been thriving for so long. Even if other fast food restaurants might be better, people might think that the food is better at other places, or other places might be less expensive or whatever, but their name is just so big. They've made such an impact that it's kind of like they're not going anywhere. But maybe they will. Maybe they won't be able to sustain this business for long. Maybe a lot of fast food places won't be able to sustain their business for long considering that they are making people unhealthy, they're exploiting people, and just making the quality of life worse for mostly everyone. I mean, yeah, they give jobs or whatever, but the way that people's health is impacted by these fast food places, and so many people are addicted to these fast food places. And I'm not saying that like it's the food's fault, but it's like it's both. It's the substance. There are things that are put in food that, you know, these places have food scientists that literally curate this food to make people crave it. So, you know, there are people that can eat the food and they eat it in moderation and they're not addicted or whatever, but I just, you know, eating this kind of food, you are more susceptible to becoming their reoccurring customer. And I don't agree with it. Anyways, I think it's a good thing that their growth is on the down, and hopefully it continues that way, and hopefully it continues that way with a lot of fast food places. Like, you know, less fast food, more whole, nourishing, good, tasty food. Like, it tastes good and it's also nourishing. That is where it's at. That's where it should be, at least. Personal yoga news. I am starting a new job as a flexologist, so I'll be stretching people, deepening my understanding of anatomy and the practice of yoga and of people's bodies. So that's pretty exciting for me. Also, I'm graduating Saturday, the day that this airs, May 11th. I'll be at my graduation ceremony, walking across the stage, getting my degree, and I guess that's cool. Congratulations to the class of 2024, where we are entering a new era. The question is, what does that mean for this show? And I'm trying to figure that out. I'm ending this season. You know, this will be the last episode of season 2, and I will be coming back for the Perfect Prana Show summer edition, so kind of like a season 3. And then I'm, you know, trying to make plans for after summer, because I want to keep the show. You know, this is my baby. I love you guys. Anybody that's listening, there's lots of love. I'm in a transition right now, but I'd like to keep the Perfect Prana Show. And even if I take a break, I would like to revive this and come back. But, you know, thank you if you've listened to all the episodes, or if you listen to more than one episode. If you've listened to one full episode, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. Just doing it for the love, because I love yoga, I love wellness, I love self-improvement. I could talk about this stuff all day. Yoga heals. This week's Yoga Heals, we're doing something a little bit different. I love to reflect. I love to get all nostalgic. So I'm bringing on the first guest of my senior year, and she will be the last guest of my senior year. We're having a full circle moment. Let's get on with the show. Currently, 60% of all people living in the United States have at least one chronic health condition. And of course, I'm a big advocate for yoga, one of the low-cost, low-risk ways to deal with chronic health conditions. And another way is through journaling. And of course, I talk about journaling a lot on the show, always a journal challenge for the weekly wellness challenge. But I wanted to take a deeper dive into the subject with the first person that actually came onto my show, the journaling queen, a yoga enthusiast, a graphic designer, Miss Tina Tan. How are you doing?
I am so well, and I feel so honored for this introduction. Wow. I love that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to the Perfect Prana Show with me. Last time I started off asking you, why do you practice yoga? Which I'll insert your answer here.
I think a huge part of it is that it connects me to my faith and my spirituality. It connects me to spirit, ultimately. It connects me to God. It allows me to tune into this beautifully crafted and intentionally designed body, and just to take care of it, but ultimately to, like, convene with God, and also just for play. I love it as a way of exploring different sensations in my body, and so many yoga poses are like animal poses. So it's like, okay, when we were kids, we would like imitate what a cow sounds like, or like how a chicken walks. And so doing that in yoga is a huge part of my inner child and allowing my inner child to come out and play.
Just for fun, I'm going to ask you today. Let's just see if the answer changes at all. Why do you practice yoga?
Ooh, yes. Connection to spirit, always. Spirit being breath, prana, or ultimately God. And as well as allowing myself to explore and create shapes with my body and allow my inner child to release.
Ooh, okay. It's going to be so fun to listen to if the answer changed at all,
Yeah,
but I
so
don't really think that it did. I feel like that was pretty spot on. Of course, I referred to you as the journaling queen because you're always journaling. You're always talking about journaling. You're always posting it. You always have a journal, which you have right now. I wanted to ask you, well, why do you journal?
For so many reasons. I think first is to be able to have all my memories in one place. Another is to recollect my day and kind of get everything off my chest. Actually, let me go back to my first point of having all my memories. It's nice to like look back 5 years later and read everything that I wrote and what I was going through in that time and kind of step back into that mindset and think like, what was Tina doing in this season of her life? Or like, what was going on in my life at that time? And a fun thing is being able to send my friends my journal or like little moments of my journals and be like, oh my goodness, on this day we did this. And we had this tiny interaction that we probably forgot because I don't know about you, but so many interactions, like maybe it's the person at the grocery store. Like we leave the grocery store being like, oh my goodness, I had a great conversation. And then 3 years down the line, we never think about it. So it's nice to have all of that there.
That's really cool that you use it to track your relationships, which that probably helps to make your relationships better and more personal because you can just remember all your special interactions with people. And I have noticed that about you, and I admire that about you, is that you know everybody's name. You remember everybody, and it's just such a warm, welcoming energy. And it's probably because you can remember them from writing down information and things that happen with them. So that is really cool. My question for you is, do you have a life pre-journaling, or is this something that you've always been doing?
Whoa. Yes. I actually can remember my first journal I got 2016. My friend Amelia in high school gifted it to me. And I actually can think of all the things that I wrote in that journal. One of them actually being when my grandma passed away. So that was like 2017. And I do remember all of my thoughts being in there and processing grief. So it is another way of just dealing with all of my emotions and processing every step of my life. Pre-journal Tina, still the same energy of like this optimism, jumping with joy, but now documenting it and being intentional with gratitude, because another reason why I journal is to express my gratitude. And there's so many scientific research on why gratitude journaling every single day is really great for you, for your mental health and for yourself.
I guess I wanted to ask, so are all of your journal entries about gratitude? What if you're not feeling grateful in that moment? Or is that, what about people who are like, life sucks. Like, why would I journal about what I'm grateful for when right now everything sucks, What about that?
Yeah, I think to start it is like, okay, if life sucks, you sit down and you really do, if it really sucks, you really do have to seek out the good things in your life. But I think the more you do it, the more natural it becomes to notice the good things, that eventually your mindset kind of shifts from life sucks to being like, wow, there is so much in my life that is good. Whether it is like feeling the ground underneath your feet or being able to breathe even a little deeper or seeking a tiny interaction you had in the day or just feeling the sun on your skin, really tiny things. And not all my journals are gratitude journaling. I think that's where I start. I definitely start with like the date, the day, the time, even the location, just in case I want to look back and be like, okay, what was I doing? And then I do have like little stars that I start off with, like what has been good. And then eventually it turns into like, okay, and then here's what else happened in my day that maybe it wasn't so great and this is how I'm feeling. And I could be so brutally honest. In some ways, journaling is like some people's sketchbook, if I'm kind of transferring that same reasoning to other people's way of doing life. But like my journal is a way for my words to come out, but I know that no one's really looking at it, and it's a progress of written thoughts. And then for artists who draw, it's like no one's really ever seeing their sketchbook unless they're really showing it to other people, but they don't really show that. It's just like their progress as well.
No, it's interesting you brought up just the mindset shift, and that's what we're really looking for, because we can program our minds to go in certain directions. So if you just start a certain pattern within your mind, you're probably likely to repeat it. So starting that pattern of gratitude is that's an amazing thing to do, especially with journaling, because then you have it documented. And I don't know, writing things down does make you remember it. Like it's just a fact at this point. Like I don't know what percentage likely, but I'm probably 100% likely will remember it. I have like my chances go up of remembering something once I write it down.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that earlier of like being able to remember people's names. And there was an instance I had written a really great interaction I had with someone who worked at one of my favorite restaurants. And the next time I went to that restaurant, I was like, oh no, like I completely forgot this person's name. And you know what I did? I opened up my journal, tried to flip to that day that I had gone to that restaurant, and I found it. And right as that person was coming up to like get my order, I was like, hello, insert a name here. And they were just so impressed. And I was like, oh, my journal saved me.
No, that is so real, because I, for the life of me, cannot remember anybody's name. Like, and it's so not personal, because it's like, I just interact with so many people, and like the number is increasing. The deeper I get into my practice, the more that I'm teaching, I come across so many paths with so many people. I'm like, bro, I'm constantly like trying to remember everybody's name, but it's like it doesn't stick, you know? So honestly, I feel like you have the key to getting better relationships and interactions with people, and kind of like for a professional sense of networking, but also just for love, like just to feel like have every interaction being like full of love. Because when you recognize somebody and make them feel recognized, it does feel like, wow, I'm loved, I'm cared about, I'm thought about. That's so.
I love that, Kyah.
No, that's a really smart thing to do, is kind of just start writing down those good interactions that we have with people and writing down their name, because oh my gosh. So there's something I wanted to ask you about, speaking about mindset shift and about the topic of journal and yoga and all that great stuff. How does your yoga practice impact your journal practice and vice versa? So how do they interact and how do they impact each other?
Absolutely. Well, I want to start off by saying that, Kyah, I feel like you are the center. You're the intersection of all my yoga circles. And I say that because of Yoga View and Columbia, but also my beginnings in yoga, which is taking yoga classes or doing a yoga teacher training program in high school with Shaker here. So literally all my circles, the beginnings of my practice to even now. Journaling really started off in my time with doing yoga alongside Shaker, because he would send us off with homework to just journal, whether it was like reflections in the week or things that happened, or like a journal prompt. Giving myself that space and the time to do it allowed me to sink into like, yeah, there are actually deeper thoughts here. And I feel the same way with yoga. It's like, okay, you get started and then you drop in and you're like, whoa, I can explore in so many different ways now and see how my hand moves, see how my spine can move. And that's the same with journaling. It's like, okay, how can I get deeper into this prompt or how I'm feeling by just continuing to write? Even if there's nothing to say, or in the context of yoga, nothing to actually move or do, once you set out that time and space, it gives you the freedom to explore there.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, and sometimes I will say with journaling, you might have like a groundbreaking moment where it's like, dang, I didn't even know what I didn't even know. Or like, it's just, I never thought about this and suddenly it's coming out. And then the same thing with the yoga pose. You might do the same pose over and over again. Like you might be doing the same action of just sitting down and writing over and over again. But there really is always more information to learn. There's like, you can always go deeper. There's always an undiscovered thought. Like you haven't discovered it yet and it's waiting there, but you just have to do the action. You have to practice or you have to journal. Like journaling is a practice within itself. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know your journaling practices. You're asking me all the questions, but I want to know yours too, Kyah.
Honestly, I'm not like the best journaler. Is that a word? Like the journaler?
Yeah.
No, but you know, I'm like a journaling peasant. Okay.
Wait a minute.
You know, I say you're the journaling queen. Like,
Please.
no. Now, me on the other hand, now I will say I did begin journaling. I don't know when. Like, it's just been such an on and off inconsistent thing. But the other day I did go back and look at some of my old journal prompts from last year, like literally a year ago today. Like, I don't know, when times get really hard, I might end up journaling just because it's like, okay, now I have to write this down because I don't know, I'm just so sad or so anxious or whatever the case is. So that's been times where I've turned to journaling like, okay. And I would like to say, I feel like it's better to be in the constant habit of journaling than to only journal when times get rough, because sometimes I don't want to say that it's too late at that point. Like it's never too late, but it's just like, it's just better to have that there already in motion. You might not be able to experience the full benefits of journaling, gratitude journaling at that, and creating those new benefits if you're only journaling when like you're at your lowest points. So I will say that that's been a struggle of mine. But I will say, like, once I started journaling and I was a little bit more consistent with it, I will say I did get more organized in my thoughts and what I want. And then I also realized that, like, bro, I think myself in circles. like I said, you can always go deeper, but sometimes I don't know. Like, it's like, how deep can I go with this subject? Like, what am I going to do about it? Like, it kind of just made me be like, okay, right now, and kind of get more present in the moment. Like, what am I going to do about the circumstance right now? I'm either going to keep feeling like this about it, or I'm just going to move on from it, or like kind of accept it for what it is. Or even with the future, like, I can only think about this so much. I just have to see what happens. I'm either going to be done with the situation, or I'm going to let the situation play out, see what happens. Like, you know, it's kind of coming to some conclusions. Like, I can't think about this anymore. Like,
yeah, it's like working through the process of like, what should I do next? What can happen next?
Now that I've written it down, it's already in my memory that, like, I've overthunk this subject and I can't go any deeper with it. So once I start to go there, I'm like, I already thought about this. Like, Kyah, like, what are you going to do? Like, it's kind of like it's in my memory, versus if I don't write down all the anxious stuff, a week later, even a month later, I'll be anxious about the same thing again, but I won't remember that thing just keeps coming up and it keeps coming up. But then once I have it like written down and it's on paper, and then I'm like, oh, so this is something that I obviously keep thinking about and that keeps coming up. And then it's just like, I could kind of get through the process, get to the conclusion faster of like, oh yeah, you're just going to have to see what happens, be present in the moment.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. That's a beautiful conclusion of the beauty and the benefits of journaling. It's working things out, being present.
Like, again, it's inconsistent, but when I do have a in air quotes, a miracle morning. And I only have them on certain days when I like have to leave the house early or whatever. I will get up and I'll do, and I explained to you, I'll do the 5 minutes of yoga or then I'll write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And it really is just that simple. Like it won't, like, I don't have a whole journal prompt of all the like, okay, this happened, this is what I'm feeling. Like, no, I'm quick, fast, in a hurry. Boom, boom, boom. Three things I'm grateful for in the morning. Write it down. And I don't know. I think that has been helpful. But what I wanted to ask you, though, because I've had points in my journaling journey where it's like, okay, I'm sitting right here and I don't know what to write down, or what I'm feeling like whatever I'm writing isn't helping me get to this next level, or it isn't helping me improve at all. So how do you decide what to write down? Do you have specific prompts or formats or structure that you stick to?
Okay, so there's this type of journaling called stream of consciousness journaling, where, or they call it morning pages, where they encourage you to just in the morning sit down with your journal and fill up 3 whole pages. And even when you don't have any thoughts, you could just start writing like, and I don't have anything else to say. And then you continue writing, and then you end up eventually like finding something. For me, it really is trying to recollect every little moment of my life, because there are some moments when I'm like, okay, what do I write about? But most times it's like, okay, I had this interaction, and sometimes I'll rewrite the same thing if I have time, but if not, it really is like, okay, I'm thankful for, I mean, I have my journal in front of me, but I'll start writing about my mom, or like the interaction I had with a friend. And if I didn't journal like a few days ago, I'd be like, okay, a few days ago I hung out with this friend and this is what we talked about. And I really like writing about conversations I've had with people, because it makes me think like, okay, this is what they asked me, and this is a really great question that I want to ask other people in my life. So it really is, just takes you wherever your brain wants to go. Your hand just kind of follows your stream of consciousness, essentially.
Yeah, my journal is chaos, just like my mind. So, no, that's so real. And at this point, yeah, when I journal and whenever I approach journal, I just write down like literally whatever thought I'm thinking, because yeah, instead of being like, okay, what should I write about or this or that, sometimes it is just like let me just observe my thoughts and write them down. Like that's what I was thinking, like interesting, and write down the train of thoughts. That's what I like to do, is because the thoughts for me, they come so fast. They come at me like crazy, and I'm sure that it's like that for everybody. I'm like, I have a million thoughts a moment. So, and I can't keep up sometimes. Sometimes I have such great ideas that I'm like, they were great, but then it was gone. And I'm thinking about the next thing. So just being like, let me just write whatever I'm thinking down. And like you said, even, I forgot the method that you called, but even that is helpful. Like, and I don't have anything else to say. I don't know. Yeah, I probably will always have something else to say, because I literally overthink like a crazy person. At any point, have you ever felt like journaling was a task or something that you didn't want to do, but you're like, oh, I'm making myself do this because it's supposed to be good for me, or this or that? Kind of like how some people might feel about exercise, or how they might feel about whatever the case is. Like, how do we get away from that? Like, it's just a task. Like, okay, I have to journal today.
Yeah, for me, I really look to my journal as a comfort. So I seek journaling rather than seeing it as a task. But I must say that one of my friends had someone tell her that, like, journaling doesn't have to be a task in your mind. It could be something that you go to. And, like, journaling can be very sporadic for some people, but essentially you, quote unquote, journaled, you got it out. But honestly, I think having it near you, having a journal with you, so that once you have an idea, you can just like plop it down, or you're like, oh no, I'm going through something. And especially when you're going through things, or when it's like super stressful, or you're like, oh my goodness, I don't have enough time to do it. It's like, that's when you need it most, to really sit down and get all your ideas out. And then you're like, okay, wait, actually now I can go about my day or my life with a little more ease. And I think that's the same with like yoga or meditation. It's like, oh my goodness, I don't have enough time. But this is something else I heard. But I think you have 5 minutes, enough time to spend for yourself.
True. Even if you're like, life is crazy, all you write down, life is crazy, I don't know what to think right now, I feel blah.
Exactly. And you look back and you're like, whoa, I got through that, you know? And the beautiful thing about having a physical thing that you can look back on is like, instead of what you're saying, like cycling through those same anxious thoughts, it's like you got them all out. And maybe you're in a place in your life where it's like, okay, you moved past that situation or thing or something like that. And you can like look at that and be like, wow, I got out of that. And I was able to do that in X, Y, or Z because you were able to journal out in that season of your life.
No, that's so real. I will say, even the sporadic journaling that I do have, and I look back at some of my journal prompts from like a year ago, 2 years ago, however long ago, I'm so glad that I did write down what I wrote down, because it's just interesting. Like, this is what I was thinking. and then to also just think about how different life is now, and how much things are just changing. Even when it feels like nothing's changing, things are changing. Like, we're always changing. Everything's always in motion, changing for the better, changing for the worse. Like, it's just, everything is always changing. So it's nice to look back to see where we've come to. So
I do have a general question for you.
Yeah.
Maybe it might be unrelated. There's times when you're not journaling. What is your way of memory keeping?
I just forget. My phone usually, and it's like my phone keeps all the pictures and stuff that I take, all the videos I take, whatever I take, and sometimes it won't, because it's like, girl, you don't have enough space. Like,
hard drive.
My phone is how I remember things, or like can look back at certain memories, whatever I post and this and that. But I will say, I love social media. I even love this podcast, so I can see like what I was producing, have this to look back at, kind of like, oh, that's what I think I would do this differently now. Oh, that's like, not, things are different now, or whatever the case is. But I do like having the private memories, like the photos that I don't show anybody, the pictures and videos, the yoga practices that I don't show people. I guess, yeah, the journal prompts or the journaling entries that I don't share with people, or just the private stuff, because that's so unfiltered. Like, this is filtered. This, I'm only going to get so deep on my podcast, or so, I still keep some things to myself. Same with my yoga practice. I can still keep some to myself. Like, I'll only post myself falling so many times. Like, I post it, but only so many times. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay. So, yeah, but normally, I don't know. I forget a lot of stuff. And that's where I guess I'm on the journey of like, okay, that is something to think about. Like, I need to, like, I want to improve my memory. Like, that's a goal that I've never thought about up until this point. Like, literally, like, wow, dang, what would life be like with a better memory? Or if I could remember more moments in my life, like, would that improve the quality of my life?
Whoa, another podcast episode. Memory, quality of life, and yoga.
Right? Okay, wait, there was one question I wanted to ask you, though.
Sure.
So why do you write things down with a pen and paper? Why not just on your phone or on your laptop? What's the difference?
Oh, I just love something about paper, and I'm a very textual. I like feeling how actually the pressure I wrote on like the backside of a page, and I'm also very particular about my journals. I love the Leuchtturm 1917. And looking at screens is already so much for our eyes. So when we're able to do it analogically, I think that's the correct word, of like going back to our roots and using our hands and not looking at blue light it's so helpful. And then why I write all my ideas down is because, yes, there's so much that goes on in my brain. And in my design thinking class, my professor just started to say, like, write everything down, because there's only so much our brains can hold. And I agree with that. Like, again, there's so much that goes on in my brain. And so when I get everything out, then I'm able to focus on what is important or what I really want to focus on, or even ideas that I want to bring to fruition. If it's like something for class, or like even a podcast idea, or things for my future. Like if I am like, whoa, I want to go to this place, I'll write it down. And then it's also another thing to look back on in the future and be like, yes, that happened. And it's so beautiful that I was thinking of that. And from ideating, it came to fruition. Yeah.
Writing is different because, like, when I'm typing on the keyboard, I'm just pressing a button. So there is something about making the actual shape with my hand that is, like, just more cemented in my memory versus if I type something up. I'm like, I guess it is kind of, I'm like a little less connected to it.
It's kind of mindful too, because we use our phones for so many other things. Like, we have literally everything, which blows my mind, the whole concept of how someone came up with the internet or like a device to have all these things, but we use it for guidance or for texting our friends. But with a journal, it's really personal and it's only for you, and you're not really sharing all those things. So it's like, yeah, it's between you and this thing that is only meant for this thing of just journaling, rather than using it to like call someone, or also put all your ideas down in the Notes app, or post a yoga video.
Yeah, I will say, look, my Notes app on my phone is also chaotic, just like my...
Me too, though.
Just like my mind. So it is nice to have a journal that is specifically only for whatever I want it to be for. Like, okay, this journal, I'm just going to write down every thought, every feeling, every whatever I want to, I'm just going to write it down because, yeah, it is, because it's less likely to get lost versus anything on my phone. It's prone to getting lost at this point. With the way that I'm low on space, everything just might have to go, and I might have to part with it and be okay. And like, all I have now is the present moment and whatever I wrote down in a journal or whatever the case is, because I'm like a physical picture. That's all I have, because
Yeah.
I can't. My phone, I'm almost ready to give up on it.
I feel that every day.
Said not enough storage, and you just start deleting stuff just to get rid of stuff, which it might have been something I didn't want to delete, but I'm like, I don't know what else to do. So, but you can't really delete a journal entry when you write it in pen.
Exactly.
So.
And actually this weekend I was in Milwaukee and was interacting with new friends. And one of the people I met is a writer, and she was like, when I was moving, I actually got rid of all of my journals from my childhood because I was trying to be a minimalist. And she was like, that is the biggest regret of my life, because I can't see the progression of who I was as a child and to who I am as a writer now. And my jaw, my heart, everything was floored. I was like, my heart, I don't think I could ever part with that. And it's wild because when we think of our phones, I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't mind if like someone please just take my phone away, but my journals, don't ever do that. I'm like, I need those. I want those for the rest of my life. And also in the theme of memory keeping, it really is nice because maybe like 40 years down the line, or like a century down the line, people will want to read this of like what was going on in that century or that time. And yeah, they can really dive into that, especially if they're family members too. Like if I had my grandma's journals, oh my goodness, I'd eat that up. Like I want to know all of her innermost thoughts and like what was going on and the people she loved and all of her innermost thoughts.
Yeah, because it can't get lost in cyberspace. Honestly, our great grandchildren, good luck for them. Because cyberspace seems infinite, and some things you might not ever be able to retrieve again at this point, with the way that the computers are just everything is just so congested. But I wish there was a visual for the way that my jaw was on the floor, and she threw away. Like, she actually threw away all her journals. That really sucks. And no, but when I was younger, I didn't really value my journals for real. Like, it was just something like, oh, okay, like, I have a diary. This is what you do. Had the cute little lock and key on it. It like was so ugly, but honestly, if I could get my hands on it now, hopefully I kept them, I would keep that just to see, like, this is what my 6, 7, 8-year-old self was writing in my journal. Like, I don't know. I do appreciate the things that I kept from my childhood and, like, the little memories, just the little trinkets, whatever, just the little stuff. Now, I understand when it's, like, clutter and, like, things gotta go, but I'd say the memories are important to keep. Some stuff can go. Like, we can get rid of, like, a ton of clothes and be okay. We could get rid of old snacks out of our cabinet and be okay. Like, we could get rid of, like, there's so many things that we could get rid of, but I would say, like, I will try to hold on to my memories as long as possible to see that progression. And I just love a good sentimental feeling. Like, a sentimental feeling within itself, it probably releases good brain chemicals.
Absolutely. Yes. I recently just put all of the letters that I've received. I love handwritten letters, and that also probably comes with, like, writing with pen and paper, but I put them all in a binder because instead of it just being in a box where I have to, like, dig to find something, it's like, actually, it's all here and I can easily flip through it. And that feeling, that sentimental feeling of, like, oh my goodness, my friend wrote this to me. And this is also what they were going on what was going on in their lives, and that they got to share that with me. And it also is another way of almost journaling, but in, like, a scrapbook kind of way. And I think that is powerful, of, like, you're able to really feel warm, and again, all those good chemicals are being released, and that's just so good for us.
Yes. Okay. So what I wanted to ask you next, what are and I feel like since you journal a lot, you've journaled enough that you should have 3. What are your top 3 journaling prompts?
But one I can think of right now is, what is your 7-year plan? Or what do you think life looks like for you in 7 years? Or where do you see yourself in 7 years? Because then in 7 years, you look back and you're like, whoa, life looks so different. Or, whoa, all these things happened. And it's so beautiful to see the progression of my life. Another, I think, classic would be 3 things I'm grateful for. Always, always, always. Maybe even 1. And I try to be very specific. I think when I was younger, before I started journaling, it would just be like, okay, I'm thankful for my bed. I'm thankful for my family. But being like, no, I'm thankful for the conversation I had about my mom's mom while having coffee and enjoying coffee with her at this exact moment and exact time that I get to spend with her. So being very specific about that. The third one is kind of open. I think it would just be any list. I like making lists, and I feel like that in some way is a form of journaling. Maybe it's like a list of things you want to talk about or journal about, or it's a list of signs and signals you might be getting for, like, a job, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is all these confirmations. Or again, ideas that you're creating for a project, like, put all those ideas down. So create a list of anything.
I know you write things down and you're the journaling queen, but audio journal, just a quick moment to answer some of your journal prompts. 7-year plan.
Whoa.
Where do you see yourself 7 years from now?
Oh my goodness, Kyah, I did not expect it to be turned onto me. Wow, what a good question. I will be 29, almost 30 in 7 years. I know, jaw on the ground.
For real, because that's like, honestly, every time I think about life 10 years from now, I'm like,
we do need a video version of this.
Yeah, honestly, seriously.
And I actually had asked my friend this question, and realistically, probably starting a family, if that's what happens. Again, this is my answer for this moment in my life right now. But I would like to say that I am in partnership. And it's wild that that's like the first answer that comes to mind. But within the 7 years, I think I would like to have traveled a little bit, specifically to Central and South America, continue to be in close proximity with my friends. I would love to be in the same vicinity as my friends or living on the same block as my friends. That would be awesome. Who knows where my studies will take me? I would hope to be doing yoga, of course. Whoa, I will probably have like 40 journals by then, completed, written, and all filled up. And yeah, how about you? Where do you see yourself in 7 years?
Bro, wait. First of all, that's a good life goal. Is like by the end of this year, I want to have like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 journals filled up. Like it's a good like challenge for like a new year resolution or like whatever. 7 years from now, honestly, I probably say, I mean, you were pretty spot on with like partnership, family and stuff, having that nice and stable. And yeah, and funny enough, like if I wrote this down in my journal, I'd probably say I can't fathom 7 years from now. No, but okay, so I'll be 29 as well, turning 29 7 years from now. God, I just don't even know what the future beholds. But either way, no, I will say this. 7 years from now, I hope to be just more of a righteous person and just by nature, like just into my practices, into Islam, into the truth, into respecting the laws of life, the laws of cause and effect. And really, I would, that's what I hope for myself, is that I continue down this path of just like, okay, becoming a better person and just becoming a wiser person, doing things that are good for me and not causing harm to myself. So whatever habits that I've gained, whatever habits I have now that cause harm to me, that I've kind of counteracted those or stopped those and replaced them with something better. I could say that I'm just still on this very spiritual path. I'm almost sure that me 7 years from now is still going to be practicing yoga. Yes. I'm almost sure. Like,
oh, yes.
I'm like 99.9% sure. I don't know what that 0.1, like, because it's like you never know, like what could happen. Like there's so much unpredictability, but I'm almost pretty sure about that one. Also, I just hope that by that time I would have helped and served a lot of people outside, like just in wherever I'm at, just like by that time, I hope that most people that have crossed paths with me could say that that was a good experience for them to cross paths with me, and that they're glad that they crossed paths with me, and that I was helpful to them in some way, or
Yes, and I can say that at this moment in our lives that I'm so grateful that our paths cross.
Thank you. No, yeah. So is there anything concrete though? Like, oh, like job, career, this and that? No, the only concrete thing that I know is, like you said, relationship, family. But to me, that's just like, that's the only concrete in life right now. Like that's something that I know I'm always going to want is to be surrounded by people that I love. Absolutely. Like that's literally life. Like,
yeah, I really do believe that our whole purpose on earth is just to hang out. We're here to hang out and enjoy the people in our lives and food, good food, and conversation.
Yes. Okay. And then because your other journal prompt suggestion, 3 things that you're grateful for right now.
Whoa. Okay. I want to say This morning, I had a lovely car ride with my mom. She joins me every Wednesday I drive to school and then she takes the car back. And growing up, like she used to drive me to school, and it is always a time of connecting with her and just getting a moment to like have our heart-to-heart conversations. And recently, I've been practicing hugging my mother, which like I think I did a lot when I was younger, but then like middle school and high school, I feel like that just slipped away, and maybe it's like an Asian household thing. But I've been really like, okay, no, before my mom gets into the driver's seat, I'm like, okay, mom, big hug. And I like really hug her tight and hold her, and she holds me. And that like warmth and envelopment is something I'm so grateful for. Hearts, we're making hearts with our hands. Another is my friendships with specifically JJ in my life. We met exactly 16 weeks ago today, and I say that because it was on a Wednesday of our first week of school, and now it's our last week on a Wednesday. And he really has become such a great friend and someone I'm able to like converse with, but also, again, have really good conversations and really good food with. And third, again, I'm so grateful for you, Kyah, and I think about the day you walked into Yoga View and we talked about the teacher training program, and then I was like, wait, and here are some books if you ever need them. And you were just so welcome and welcoming, and you just had a lovely, warm, comforting presence. And I'm so grateful to have you in my life. And also, again, to be on the show. And I do say again, because again, I'm on the show. And yeah, just to have a space and someone to speak about yoga and breathing and our futures. Yeah, it's just so lovely. So I'm grateful for you. How about you?
Oh my gosh. No, I'm here for the audio journal.
Yes, and honestly, that's another way people do journaling is they're like, let me just put it in my voice notes. I'm like, you're so smart. Just like yap. And
yeah, talk it out. Honestly, and I will say that's efficient. I will say, because it's like the thoughts come so fast, and sometimes this is why my handwriting sucks so terribly, because my hand can't keep up with my brain. Like I can't possibly write fast enough to write down like my thoughts at the speed that they come. Yeah. So it's like, so I will say, to be able to yap it out is where it's at. 3 things that I'm grateful for, though. I'd say right now in this moment, I'm grateful for not to be on like the school pride or whatever, but I am grateful for my Columbia College experience. I'm grateful for the experience of being able to move to Chicago, from being able to discover or go deeper into the practice of yoga at Yoga View, being able to meet so many people at school and at Yoga View, like Tina, enjoy those people and actually recognize them, and to be present with them, and to like really enjoy and be present with the school, enjoy and be present with Chicago. Like, I'm so grateful that I get to have that experience, especially because there were moments and times and where I wasn't always present, I wasn't always enjoying, I wasn't always appreciating where I was at in St. Louis or even in Chicago. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have anything that I loved or really passionate about. I was just going about living life. So to be able to be present, like, I'm just grateful for being grateful. Like, honestly, like, so honestly, to just be able to be like, oh, I appreciate these things, like that within itself is like, wow. No, I'm grateful for the overall experience. Number 2, what I would say that I am grateful for right now in this moment is I would write down my consciousness, that I have thoughts and stuff. I don't know, it all like kind of goes together, right?
Yeah.
No, but I will say that that's something that I'm really grateful for. Like, I could be like really thoughtless I could have no thoughts, no ideas,
Brain
nothing.
empty.
Yeah. I could have an empty brain, but like I don't. Like I have all these ideas. I have all these wants. I have all these desires. I have all these memories.
Yeah.
I have all these experiences. I'm grateful that I have those things to fill my brain. I'm like knowledge. Like I'm grateful that I have the ability to learn and that I've learned things and that I have that in my brain space, in my mind, and wherever our mind is at. I'm glad that it holds things, topics, memories, experiences. And yeah, that's like number 2. So yeah, I said my Chicago experience and being grateful for being grateful, my consciousness, being able to hold those memories. Third thing that I'm grateful for would be all the comforts that I'm afforded in life.
Yeah.
To be real with you, I probably have like $8 in my bank account right now. # broke college student.
Like actually broke college student.
But I'm so grateful that I could have basically no money, but I'm still comfortable. I'm like, I still have a meal at home. I still have a bed to sleep in. I still have clothes on me. I still have a card that can get me around on CTA. I still have people that love me. I still have so many things that make me comfortable. Like right now, I don't need money. Yes. Even though I'm like, oh, this hurts. But like the fact that I could basically have $0 and still be alive and okay and like have all my needs met, that's like pretty crazy. So I'm like, wow.
For real, blessings upon blessings. Gosh, I love that. And I really love how you shared about consciousness. It really is gratitude for this human experience, being able to like have thoughts. And even if they're like anxious thoughts, like being able to have those, or like any emotion that we feel, whether it is grief or anger or joy, it's like, wow, I'm so grateful to like be able to experience this. Because like, where else in the universe are we gonna ever be in these bodies with these brains and feel these emotions, or like be surrounded by the people we love, or yeah, all these different things that just validate our human experience.
No, that's so real, because at the end of the day, like happiness can't exist without sadness, or whatever the opposite of happiness is, or joy can't exist without grief, or whatever the contrasting thing is. So to kind of be able to go from one to the other is kind of like, that is the human experience. And yeah, it is something to be grateful for. Like I'm so grateful for that I could just feel. And some people can't feel, and some people can't feel physically. They're like, I can't feel my legs. Some people can't feel emotionally, and I don't know. I can't comprehend that. I'm grateful for every sense.
Yes, absolutely. And I think another part of our lives is like guiding people to feel deeper, whether that is like love or joy, but allowing our friends or the people in our lives to be human and be vulnerable, and yeah, to do this life with others.
Since this is the Perfect Prana, and look, I'm so grateful for you, Tina, that you started this. Is that you started this tradition for each yoga teacher to leave us with a quick pranayama before we go. So I'm going to ask you, Tina, would you lead us through a quick pranayama?
All right. So let's do 3 breaths together. All right. So exhale everything out and take a slow, deep inhale and hold at the top. Maybe take another sip and exhale all of it out. And a full breath in. Hold it. Maybe another sip. And exhale all of it out. And one last breath. Full breath in. Make it your deepest of your entire day. And maybe a little more. And exhale. Let something go.
3 breaths is all that it takes. No, thank you, Tina, so much for coming back onto the Perfect Prana Show and just having this full circle moment. Thank you for indulging in me with this conversation.
Thank you for having me here. I am so grateful. Always, always, always.
Yes. And I am lit up by our conversation. With that being said, the light within me bows to the light within you. Namaste.
Namaste.
You're listening to the Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. If you'd like to see what I'm doing, where I'm practicing yoga, and you would like to come practice with me, follow me on Instagram at Consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. Weekly Wellness Challenge. Last week I talked a little bit about focused concentration, dharana, and I just said I just need to focus on getting what I need to get done this week. I need to concentrate on getting what I need to get done. And then I also talked about how the first five limbs of yoga are more so about what we do, are the disciplines. But the last three are more so states that happen to us because we practice these disciplines. So since we got our moral codes in line and we got our space in line, we made sure that we practiced and we made sure that we cleaned up and we decluttered and we didn't overconsume and we made sure we did all these great things, then we can be concentrated and we can get into this meditative state and then be enlightened. So the last three are more so states that happen to us. And I was like, it's hard for me to have a challenge for these necessarily. Since this is the last episode of the season, I'll kind of do both the limbs, if you will. And again, they're just things that happen to us. It's like once you get to 7, and you're in 7 long enough, yoga, you're in the 7th limb of yoga where you're in this meditative state, then you'll reach this enlightenment, I guess, you know? But this week, meditation. So yeah, it's just interesting because, we can't really meditate. It's not something we can do. It's just something that can happen to us. But there are things that we can do that allow us to get to the state where this can happen to us. Essentially is all the other previous limbs of yoga, 1 through 5, between the ethical codes and the moral disciplines and the practicing of the postures, the yoga poses, the breathing techniques, and practicing sense of withdrawing from the external senses. Like, okay, I'm not gonna let what's happening distract me. I just saw this coyote jump across a bridge and it might have been really cool, but I'm not gonna let that distract me from what I need to be doing right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that I actually saw that, but essentially, if we can get a hold of those first 5, then again, we allow these last 3 to happen to us. So again, there's really no challenge because I can sit in silence and I can close my eyes but still not be meditating. And that's the crazy part about it. And that's something that I didn't really understand. And then it made me question myself, have I ever actually meditated? Have I ever actually been in a meditative state? I don't know. Maybe, I'm not gonna think about it too much. Anyways, but it is a good practice to have to be able to sit quietly and to sit with yourself and not be distracted by the outside world. To just let all the thoughts pass and to have one focus in mind so that we can reach this true enlightenment, samadhi, bliss, enlightenment. And it's not just about being happy or whatever. It's state of bliss. There's not too much I can say about it. I'm still learning about it. I'm in season 3. We're gonna recycle this for real. Summer edition. Now that we have a new perspective on the 8 limbs of yoga, I want to go through it all again. And that's essentially life. Like the path, we're always going through this path as we're trying to get to enlightenment. Everything that we do is so that we can reach enlightenment or bliss. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. And this week's quote, to stay on theme, from Blaise Pascal. It's a pretty famous quote, and I actually got this from my dad. He saw it in a show, and then he actually looked up the quote, and I was like, oh, this is a pretty good quote, and I want to include it. And it is, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. And that's something to think about, because then it just makes me think about every problem in the world. And I'm like, can it really be traced back to this? Somebody should really examine that. Like, if man had sat quietly in the room alone, could we have avoided this problem? Maybe. But like I said earlier, it is definitely a good practice to have, to just sit quietly alone with your thoughts without external stimuli. Stimulation overload is real. But it's been a great show. It's been a great season. It's been a great year. I'm so grateful for the Perfect Prana Show. I'm so grateful for prana, for breath. I'm so grateful for life. I'm so grateful for every single guest that has come onto the show, that has met with me, that has opened up to me. I'm so grateful for yoga. I'm so grateful for my health. I'm so grateful for my consciousness. And I hope that you're grateful too. It's been real. You're listening to the Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. With that being said, the light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.